The screaming stopped 20 minutes ago. Now it's just breathing shallow, wheezing, wet. Not mine. I'm crouched behind the shattered windshield of a flipped Kia Soul, glass in my arms, blood in my ears, and a pair of lifeless eyes staring at me through the rearview mirror. I don't know how long I've been here. Something is still out there. I can hear it dragging itself closer. And I can't move. God help me, I can't move. Earlier that day, it was supposed to be a short shift. 3 students. Coffee from the gas station. Traffic around the rotary like always. I've been teaching people to parallel park for 12 years, never once thought I'd miss the simplicity of brake pedals and failed signals. First lesson was a jittery college kid named Bren. Skinny, twitchy, too polite. Kept checking his mirrors every 3 seconds like they'd bite him if he didn't. I thought it was nerves. Turns out, he was watching the road behind us for something else entirely. "Do you hear that?" he asked, barely 20 minutes into the drive. "Hear what?" I said, sipping burnt coffee, scribbling a note about his rolling stop. He didn't answer. And then the sirens started. Dozens. Everywhere. At first, I thought it was just a bad wreck. Dozens of sirens cut through the morning like barbed wire, ambulances, cruisers, fire trucks. Not unusual for Boston, but not this many. Not all at once. Bren's hands were white on the wheel. "That's the 3rd one we've seen in 5 minutes," he said, voice shaking. I nodded, watching a state trooper's SUV scream past on the shoulder, nearly clipping a Subaru. "Must be something big. Stay calm. Keep your eyes forward." He didn't listen. We were merging onto I-93 when he hit the brakes hard. I spilled coffee into my lap. "Jesus, Bren, there's someone on the road." Sure enough, middle lane, staggering like they'd just crawled out of a wreck, was a man in hospital scrubs, covered in blood. No shoes. His mouth hung open in a silent scream. Cars swerved around him. One clipped him. He spun, hit the pavement, then got up. Got up wrong. Too fast. Joints snapping backward. I grabbed the wheel. Off the highway. Now. Bren didn't argue. We exited at Savin Hill, the streets already thick with honking, flashing lights, people yelling into phones. A guy ran past the car with a baseball bat. I saw a woman collapse near a laundromat. Another figure crouched over her, gnawing. My gut turned ice cold. "Bren," I said, "you need to go home. Right now." "What's happening?" I didn't have an answer. Not one I could say out loud. We turned onto a side street, but it was blocked. 2 cars crashed, a mailbox on fire. We reversed, nearly hit a dog. That's when we saw the bus. It was on its side, windows shattered. People, students, maybe, trapped inside. One was still banging on the glass. The rest weren't moving. Some were being dragged out by others. But those others weren't helping. They were biting. Bren screamed. I grabbed the wheel again, yanked us into a U-turn. Then boom. Something hit us from behind. Metal crunched. The airbags exploded. The last thing I remember was Bren's face slamming into the horn and the red smudge it left behind. Everything was sideways. I blinked into the taste of blood and smoke, upside down in the passenger seat of a ruined Kia, windshield spiderwebbed and leaking early afternoon sunlight through tree branches. The airbags had deflated into a chemical-smelling mess. My ears rang. My head pounded. Bren. No answer. I turned, slowly. He was slumped over the wheel, neck at a wrong angle. Blood smeared across his temple. I reached over, touched his wrist. No pulse. For a second, the silence was deafening. Then I heard the breathing. Not mine. Raspy. Wet. Like lungs filled with gravel. Something was outside the car, dragging itself. I froze. Shattered glass crackled as I shifted my weight. The whole car creaked, upside down, twisted at the edge of a ditch just off the road. I couldn't see the source of the sound, but I could feel it. It was circling us. Not hurrying. Just waiting. I fumbled for my seatbelt. It clicked loose, and I hit the roof, now floor, with a grunt. Pain shot through my shoulder. Then something thumped against the window. I turned. My heart stopped. A woman's face. Or what had once been a face. Lips gone. Teeth clicking against the glass. Hair matted with gore. Her eyes were dead. But her hunger wasn't. I crawled back, kicked open the bent passenger door with both feet. She hissed, clawed at the gap, but I rolled out fast, hit the grass hard, and scrambled for the ditch. That's when I saw them. 3 more figures, stumbling down the embankment. One in a firefighter's uniform. One in a suit, missing a shoe. One a teenager, mouth slack, eyes milky. They weren't moaning. They weren't sprinting. They were stalking. I didn't wait to see what they'd do. I ran. Down the hill, across cracked asphalt, through someone's overgrown backyard. My legs burned. My shoulder throbbed. But I ran like the devil was on my heels. Because he was. I don't know how long I ran. Through hedges, across fences, past driveways littered with overturned garbage cans and half-packed cars. The sky had gone gray. The light felt sick. The kind you get before a thunderstorm, but heavier. Like the air was thick with rot and secrets. I finally ducked into a garage with the door half open. 2 plastic flamingos had been knocked over in the yard. The mailbox hung on by one rusted hinge, flapping in the wind like a warning flag. Inside, dark. Cool. The scent of motor oil and mildew. I braced the door with a rake and crouched between an old workbench and a rust-streaked fridge, trying to slow my breath. That's when I heard the voices. Not groans. Real voices. Human. I moved toward the connecting door to the house, quiet as a ghost. It was open a crack. Through it, I could see the edge of a kitchen. A man and a woman, arguing in hushed tones. We can't just leave them out there, Nate. We have to, Sarah. You saw what happened to the Thompsons. They were our neighbors. They turned, Sarah. Their little girl bit a cop. I leaned closer. My breath caught. Sarah started to cry. So what do we do? Wait for the army? For someone to fix this? Nate's laugh was dry. There is no army anymore. Just monsters. And morons. Then came the sound that made my blood ice over. A thud. Then a low, gurgling growl. Sarah screamed. Something crashed. I heard Nate yell, and then the sound of a struggle. Chairs scraped. Glass shattered. And then silence. I pushed the door open. The kitchen was wrecked, blood smeared across the tile. One body on the floor. The other gone. But that wasn't what stopped me. It was what was written on the fridge in bold red marker. Day 1. If you're reading this, you're already too late. I backed away, heart slamming in my chest. Because they weren't wrong. I wasn't surviving the start of this thing. I was already neck-deep in it. And the worst hadn't even begun. I stayed in that garage until the sun started to bleed orange behind the trees. The world outside had gone muffled. No sirens now. No screaming. Just the distant click-click of something that didn't walk right. I'd found a flashlight, half a protein bar, and an old ham radio buried beneath dust and cobwebs. It was the kind of antique that looked more decorative than functional. But the battery compartment had been replaced, wired to a car battery on the workbench. I didn't know what I was hoping for. Just needed to hear something, anything that proved I wasn't the last sane voice left. I cranked the dial. Static. More static. A faint burst of music. Then nothing. And then a voice. Repeat. This is Dr. Kale from Sentinel Base. If you are receiving this, stay off all government emergency frequencies. The official broadcasts are compromised. I repeat, do not follow evacuation orders. The virus is neurological. It mimics trauma. Visual cortex and auditory reflexes are retained. They see. They hear. They learn. I froze. The voice continued, ragged, urgent. Symptoms vary. It's not just bites. Fluid exposure. Mucous membrane contact. Incubation can be minutes. Stay masked. Avoid close quarters. Burn clothing after exposure. They're adapting. They crack. A harsh burst of feedback. Then silence. Then something else. Not a voice. Just breathing. Heavy. Close. As if something on the other end was listening back. I yanked the battery cable free. The light died instantly. I sat there in the dark, the words echoing in my skull. They learn. Outside, something scraped against the garage door. Slow. Testing. Like it remembered how it opened. Like it had seen me. I didn't scream. I didn't move. Just reached for the crowbar under the workbench. Because if that door came up, I was ready to fight. The scraping stopped. Then came the knock. Not a pound. Not a clawing. A knock. 3 slow, deliberate raps on the metal garage door. My breath caught in my throat. I crouched low, crowbar tight in my grip. My fingers were slick with sweat, my knees aching from hours on the concrete floor. Then came the hiss of metal. The door creaked. An inch. Then another. I scrambled behind the riding mower, peeking through the slats of a broken storage shelf. A hand slid under the rising door, thin, gray-skinned, nails black and cracked. It gripped the edge like it knew what it was doing. The door rose just enough for a figure to duck under. Barefoot, pants soaked in blood, shirtless, ribs showing like steel cables under skin. Its head twitched to the side once, sharply. Then it stood upright. That was the worst part. It stood, not hunched, not snarling. It listened. I didn't breathe. It turned toward the workbench, nostrils flaring. Sniffed the air. Tilted its head toward the unplugged radio. Then slowly walked toward it. Step by step. I moved. Silently. Behind it. Raised the crowbar. It spun. Faster than it should have. Its hand shot up. Blocked the swing midair. Cold fingers gripped my wrist. I gasped. The strength was unreal. Its mouth opened. Rows of broken teeth. Tongue slick with black saliva. I twisted. Rammed my knee into its chest. It didn't flinch. I smashed the crowbar down again. This time it connected. Bone cracked. It staggered. I didn't stop. Hit it again. And again. It shrieked. A high, almost human sound, and clawed at my arm, tearing fabric and skin. Blood sprayed the walls. Mine. I slammed the crowbar into its skull one last time, screaming as I drove it to the floor. It twitched. Moaned. Then went still. I stumbled back, panting, covered in gore. My arms burned. My side throbbed. I stood there for a long time, staring at the corpse. It wasn't mindless. It wasn't slow. And it had tried to trap me. I wasn't just running from monsters anymore. I was fighting something that remembered being human. I left the body where it fell. There was no time to think, no time to mourn what the world used to be. My arm was bleeding bad. The gash ran from elbow to wrist, not deep enough to sever, but deep enough to slow me down. I tore a rag off the garage curtain and wrapped it tight, teeth clenched. Every heartbeat pulsed fire through my veins. Outside, the street was dead quiet. Not peaceful. Waiting. I stuck to the shadows, cutting through hedges, ducking behind parked cars. The sky had dimmed into bruised twilight. The air smelled like rot and diesel fuel. Halfway up the block, I stopped behind an overturned recycling bin. That's when I heard them. Engines. Not cars. Not civilian. Military. 3 matte black trucks rolled up the road, armored, with no insignias. Not U.S. Army. No flags. No numbers. Just dark steel, tinted windows, and a low, guttural hum that vibrated in my bones. Behind them, 2 buses. Also black. Also windowless. Then a third vehicle, smaller. A Jeep, maybe, but retrofitted with a roof-mounted thermal cam, sweeping back and forth. I ducked lower. Through the crack in the bin, I saw them, figures in all-black gear riding in the truck beds. Helmets with dark visors. Assault rifles. No chatter, no yelling. Just coordinated movement. One of them raised a fist. The convoy stopped. Another soldier jumped down, walked to the curb, and crouched by a mailbox. He pulled something from his vest, a scanner. He waved it over the box. Beep. Then he sprayed something onto the mailbox in red paint, a triangle with a line through it. I stared. That wasn't military code. It was something else. A new language. The soldier turned suddenly, looked straight at me. I ducked, held my breath. Silence. Then, crunching footsteps. Coming closer. I drew the crowbar, heart slamming against my ribs. But the sound passed. Moving away. The convoy started again. Slow. Purposeful. I peeked out in time to see the last truck roll by, and behind it, what looked like a cage. A real one. Reinforced steel bars. Something moved inside it. Not banging. Pacing. I swallowed hard. That wasn't cleanup. That was collection. The convoy was gone, swallowed by dusk and dust. But the mark they left burned in my mind. A red triangle, clean and simple, slashed with a single line. It wasn't military. It was method. Cold, calculated, and systematic. I followed their tracks. Not because it was smart. Because I needed answers. Because I couldn't survive just on running. Not anymore. Blood still dripped from my wrapped arm. My side throbbed. My legs moved on instinct. The trail led to a cul-de-sac. A row of houses, identical in shape, different only in the way they died. Windows smashed, front doors kicked in, curtains fluttering like surrender flags. And 3 of them were marked. That same triangle. Spray-painted clean on the siding. I picked the nearest one. Door unlocked. Silence thick. Inside, normalcy frozen in terror. Plates still on the dinner table. TV paused on a weather alert. But no bodies. In the hallway, blood smeared in hand-shaped streaks. Drag marks. Something had been pulled out. Downstairs, I found a wall with photos. A family of 4. Smiling. 2 kids. A dog. In the kitchen, I found a folder. Thick. Labeled with the triangle. Inside documents. Charts. CDC letters. Psychological evaluations. Each family member had a photo attached. Notes written in tight, impersonal print. Immune response. Negative. Sympathetic behavior. Elevated. Mental resistance. Strong. Quarantine status. Red line override. The last page was a map. With more triangles. Some with circles drawn around them. Some with XS. And scribbled at the bottom, almost like a footnote. Phase 2 begins within 72 hours. Pre-selection completed. Field recovery ongoing. My mouth went dry. They weren't just fighting the infection. They were selecting people. Studying them. Tagging homes like cattle. I staggered back, nearly knocked over a chair. That's when I saw it, in the reflection of the glass microwave door. A man. Standing behind me. Except he wasn't a man anymore. He wore the remnants of a lab coat. His chest was torn open. His eyes were black. And in one hand, he clutched a CDC badge. Dr. Kale. The same voice from the radio. His mouth moved. No words. Just a low gargle, like something stuck in his throat. But his eyes, they were focused. They knew. I swung the crowbar before he could lunge. It struck with a crack of bone, sent him staggering. But not down. He came at me again, faster this time. I dodged, rammed the bar into his knee. He dropped. I didn't stop swinging until he stopped moving. I collapsed beside him, panting. He hadn't just been turned. He'd been turned and kept alive. Used. I looked at his badge. A small drive was clipped to the back. I took it. When I left the house, I marked it in my mind. Not read. Not safe. But important. I didn't know where I was going. The roads were still burning. The screams still echoing. But I had something now. Evidence. Purpose. And in this new world of marks and monsters, I had one more day to live. And maybe, just maybe, a way to fight.